Hello, hello. I am running a few minutes late this evening. I apologize for that. All right, those of you watching the replay, please feel free to put replay into the comment section. I always like to see who go back and then catch any comments or questions for folks who are watching the replay, especially my folks from across the globe that are probably asleep right now. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to jump on board this evening. In the meantime, I'm going to have a sip of my nice decaf that my husband made for me. So kind of him, so kind. All right, guys. Well, I've got some exciting stuff for tonight. I'm also going to be trying out some of the bells and whistles on this live streaming platform. So hopefully I'll be able to share with you guys some of the exercises that I like to do with some of my patients. Lately, this week, I feel like I got so many questions about balance. So I was just like, you know what? Let's just do a show on balance. We're just going to do that tonight. So lots of little pearls here we're going to be sharing tonight. All right, guys, I'm seeing some of you jump on board. Go ahead. Don't be shy. Let me know who you are, where you're from, what's in your coffee mug, especially if you're a cool kid and you got one of the Cozy Talks mugs or glasses. Hey, Harsh, glad to see you on board. You're my first man commenting tonight. All right, who else we got on board? I see the numbers climbing. Oh, wow. Yeah, numbers really just climbed up right now. Okay. All right, guys, I see you. Let's see. We got Brett on board. We got his clam chowder and iced tea. We got David Donahue with his Coke. We got Kim Richards from South Dakota. Let's see who else we got. We got Jim Simpsons from east of St. Louis with his black coffee. Kenny Jones, what's up, Coast? What's up, Kenny, in Virginia? We got Glenda on board. Oh, Tom, I'm so glad you're here. Good to see you, man. We got Marianne. Marianne, let me tell you, those balance questions you've been sending me, that's the reason I'm doing this talk tonight, Marianne. So keep those ears open. Nice cold South Dakota. We got Rita all the way from Michigan. All right. Smitten with the mitten. We've got Doug from Canada as always. There's my Canuck right there with his herbal tea. We've got Glenn. Andrea, there's my OT. You have a mug, but not using it tonight. All right. All right. We got Jeff Cook listening to me on the YouTube channel, guys. Just so you know, I am broadcasting also to my YouTube channel at the same time. Yeah, Jeff, it sounds like you got your butt whooped at that bilateral amputee camp, which is just amazing. I've loved looking at those pictures. Jody's in vacation in Fort Pierce, Florida, so she's down in my neck of the woods this week. We got Benny Cortez going, go Astros. All right. We got Van Gregory from Texas, and he's got a tall. Are you a tall glass of water? You have a tall glass of water, Van Gregory. I know, bad joke. All right, guys, we got a good show going on this evening. Quick poll. How many of y'all checked your emails? And those of you who checked your emails and you know what I'm talking about, shh, don't give it away. How many of y'all checked your emails? Raise a hand. Hey, Cindy from Columbia, South Carolina. How many of y'all checked your emails? Charles, howdy, Charles. You're here grasping fresh cup of well water in Texas. Whew, yeah, that'll put some hair on your chest. We got Patricia Higgins on board. Brett checked his email. Marianne checked her email. Van Gray says he has the tall glass of water. Bonnie checked. All right. Anybody else check their email? Yep, Brett. All right, guys. If you are signed up for my subscription, email subscription, you need to check your emails. What's up, comadre? I know she checked her email. We got Glenda checking her email. If you are signed up for my email subscription, you should have received a very special email today. And because you're on my email subscription, you're getting this email and this announcement a day before everybody else gets it. So some of you were asking me about it. Check your spam email because sometimes the stuff goes into there. Give it a look-see. Hey, Tom saw it. Patricia saw it. Hola, compadre. How you doing, man? All right, guys. So that's all I'm going to leave you with. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you joining me for the first time, welcome. My name is Cozy Belloso. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist here in Tampa, Florida. It's going to soon be 19 years that I've been a PT. It's a really long time. Hey, Sandra from Gainesville. So, guys, like I said, this week, we got Kelly. Kelly, I haven't seen your name before. Welcome if you're new. This week, we had a lot of questions come in for balance. So I thought I would just do a nice recap on balance. I talk about balance all the time. I talk about it so much, I dedicated a full day to it in my live event series last summer. Okay. And guys, all you got to do tonight is sit back and listen because I'm going to be giving you links that you can go back and review in case you missed something. Hey, David. Oh, David saw it too. All right. Hey, Brian, what's going on? We got Chuck on board. Good, Chuck. It's going to be a good show today. Good show today. So guys, quick show of hands, quick show of hands. There's gonna be lots of cozy polls tonight, so just get ready. How many of y'all are having trouble with your balance? I should see my comment board lighting up like a Christmas tree right about now. How many of you are having problems with your balance? How many of you are struggling to get off the walker or the cane? How many of you are perhaps off your walker or cane, but you don't feel real sure-footed when you're changing the terrain that you're walking on? Me. Oh yeah, that's what I like to see. I love it when I hit a sweet spot on a cozy pole right here. Right here. There we go. Okay? So let's talk about it tonight. Guys, in order for you to start working upon your balance problems, you got to know where it's all coming from. Sometimes when you understand how your body works, and more particularly why it's not working, it helps you understand why it is that your physical therapist will give you certain kinds of exercises and why they're asking you to do them in a particular order and however often they ask you to do it. Brian says, daily, if not following the rules. Jim says, me, but making progress. You better be making progress, Jim. Glenda is struggling with the walker to cane, right? And this is a big one. Charles says, no problemo from me. I'm even better hopping on my one foot. Well, Charles, you've been an amputee for a real long time. You're one of my real experienced Joes out there. All right, guys. So let's talk a little bit about how your brain processes balance, okay? So I don't know, those of you who watched my show in the summertime where I did the entire day on balance, there's 3 ways that your brain processes balance, right? Through the visual, vestibular system in your inner ear, and your somatosensory system. That's like our big Jeopardy word for the evening, okay? So just a quick explanation of those 3 things. Visual, it's pretty easy, right? It's your eyes. Your brain processes all the information that it's getting visually from its environment, right? Vestibular, it's your inner ear. It's what goes crazy when you've had a little too much to drink. That's what gets messed up, and that's what throws off your balance when you've had one too many brewskis, right? So that's your vestibular. Somatosensory, right? Somatosensory is the way your body senses the environment around you. So let me dig a little bit more into that so you can guys really get a good understanding. We have our senses, right? We have our vision, smell, taste, touch, right? We have hearing. Those are our senses that we use to sense the world around us, right? But then we have our somatosensory. Somatosensory tells us what our body is doing within the world. I know it's kind of weird, right? So basically it's going to tell us, okay, something is pushing up on our hand. Something is making us move side to side. Okay, and it's very closely linked with your vestibular and your visual system. And those of you who have been with me for a while, those of you who've been cozy talkers for a while, right? You've heard me use the word proprioception. That's where the proprioception is tied in your somatosensory system. So you with me so far? So when your brain is processing balance, it's getting information from the visual, vestibular, and somatosensory system. Yeah, 2 thumbs up. All right, let me read some of these comments. I'm going to try to keep up with the comments tonight. Tom says, I was 80 feet up on the roof this afternoon. Tom, it's a good thing I didn't see you because I would have been hollering at you. Holler at my husband and my dad when I see them up on a roof like that. Doug says, first cousin to the balance question is transferring from the floor to a wheelchair or couch as a bilateral amputee, legs off. Oh, we're going to get to that, Doug. Don't worry. And ask me that again at the end of this evening if I haven't already answered that question. Okay, Doug? All right. So now that we know how the brain processes balance through the visual, the vestibular, and somatosensory, let's see how it all comes together. And the example I always like to use is my kid, right? Let's say my kid as a toddler, my kids aren't toddlers anymore, decides to run out into the street because he sees something really cool, okay? Everything kicks into place, right? So my visual system tells me that all of a sudden, as I'm reaching out for my kid, the floor has moved. The floor is no longer where it was before. That's what my visual sense is telling me. My vestibular sense is telling me that my body weight has moved from its normal center of gravity, okay? And my somatosensory system is going to tell me my feet are no longer planted underneath me, right? And this is all happening literally in a split second, right? As I'm reaching to grab my kid so he doesn't go out into the street, Okay. So my brain takes all this information and actually goes to the back of your brain, a place called the cerebellum. Your cerebellum processes all this information and then it quickly sends out commands to your body, right? If your little guy's just kind of not going so fast, then maybe your brain just tells your body, okay, arms, reach out, grab the kid and pull him back. But if your little tyke is really hell-bent on getting out into that traffic in the street, right? Your brain's going to tell your body, move those muscles and those ankles and get yourself to pitch forward. Use those core muscles to hold yourself steady so that you can reach out further and grab the kid back. Okay. And this is all happening split second, right? It doesn't take long for your brain to process and to go into play. All right. Van Gregory says, so does that mean practicing balance in the dark or with eyes closed is counterproductive? Van Gregory, that's a phenomenal question, and we're going to get to that. Yes, there is a relevance there, and I'm going to get to that. And Brian says, is it common or often that people claim vertigo over realizing that more work is needed? Yes, but actually, Brian, there is a specialty in physical therapy that is dedicated specifically to vertigo, to issues with the inner ear. It's called Bppv. It's probably one of the most common. It's benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, right? It's very, very common, Brian. It's a lot more common than people think, especially as we age in the population. And I've certainly had a couple of patients where I was working with them going, they should have been improving with their balance, but they're not. There's something else at play here. And they're also starting to demonstrate some of the symptoms that are classic of vertigo. So usually at that point, I will send them to a vertigo specialist because there's very specific movements and treatment that are extremely effective for treating vertigo. So yes, Brian, it is important. And you guys have heard me say this a lot. Whatever is causing the loss of balance, you need to find that root cause. Okay, because if you're just doing traditional balance exercises for someone who has issues with vertigo, it's not going to be as effective. They have to treat the vertigo first. And again, that's actually a specialty I never delved into. That's a really, really super specialized section in our physical therapy world. Okay, but yes, it's a very good question. So let's just kind of do a recap, right? 3 systems: visual, vestibular, somatosensory. All of them work together to bring information from the environment to take to your brain, and then your brain shoots out the information and tells your body how to react so that you don't fall down, right? Charles says that when I'm on the water in my boat, I notice this issue more. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So what happens, guys? What happens when a person has an injury? Okay, whether it's an amputation, whether it's a spinal cord injury, whether it's a stroke or a traumatic brain injury. And there's some of you here who commented when I was advertising about talking about balance. Some of you commented to me, I have a stroke. I've had a stroke, or I've had a traumatic brain injury along with my amputation. So you're dealing with 2 issues that are affecting your balance, right? So in the instance of a stroke or traumatic brain injury, obviously certain parts of the brain, depending on where the stroke was or the injury was, are affected. And the body's ability to process that information gets mixed up. So with certain strokes, the vision might be impaired. And the person then has to rely more on their vestibular and somatosensory to get around in their world. Or in cases of very severe stroke or severe traumatic brain injuries, all 3 systems are affected. And this is where the physical therapists who work in neuro inpatient rehab, where they really shine, because they know how to target the brain and get it to relearn and reorganize itself so that it can process this information. And I know my occupational therapist that's listening in tonight, and I know she's nodding her head, because this is also a lot of what our occupational therapists will do and help their patients with, and helping process the information, right? Now, with an amputation, guys, and this is, again, if there's no traumatic brain injury, if there's no associated injury to the brain with this, in an amputation, there's no damage to the brain, right? The brain's ability to process has not been damaged. The brain is just a little confused. Okay, and this is also sometimes where the phantom limb pain comes into play, because the brain is starting to notice, wait a second, there's nothing there anymore. And my balance is having to shift and my body weight is shifting and things are just different. It's almost like a mechanical processing issue, if that kind of makes sense, right? The brain notices that there's something different. All right, let's see. Jennifer says, I think my balance issue is more psychological than physical. I'm not sure if that makes sense. I'm afraid of falling. Jennifer, it makes perfect sense. And you know, I think I can safely say that every patient that comes to see me, even my high-end athletes, right? When I get them to do some of the crazy stuff with running and doing obstacle courses, there is that sense of apprehension and fear of falling. Right? And certainly so with my folks who are learning how to walk, and even folks who have been out of their injury for years. So yes, there's certainly a psychological component, because I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but if you're constantly used to having that fear, right, that's going to cause you to tense up and perhaps inhibit your balance even more. So Jennifer, whenever I have someone come in who talks to me about their fear of falling, that's where I'm just like, okay, let's evaluate this person from head to toe. Let's find out where this impairment of balance is coming from. Okay. And Jennifer, at the end of this talk, I want you to nudge me again in the comment section, because there's a way that I work with my patients who have physically overcome their balance impairment, but psychologically, they still need a little help. And I have a few strategies that I use to help those patients, but we're going to save that for the end. Okay, Jennifer, so I want you to give me a nudge. Rita says same thing. Cindy says same thing. Okay, Charles says, I still remember the woozy feel I felt after my cruise when I took my cruise to Jamaica. And then I try to remember that vacation still feels like a rocking sensation. Yes, yes. Okay, guys, so moving on, okay? Sorry, I'm like looking at my cheat sheet notes here that I always have to look at, because, you know, it's 8:50 at night and my brain is also affected right now. Okay, so guys, what happens, okay, when there's a part of the brain that's injured with a stroke or with a traumatic brain injury, is that your brain starts to rely upon the other systems. So if your vision has been impaired, your brain is going to start relying upon vestibular and somatosensory, okay? When it comes to amputation, okay, what I see with my patients is the visual takes over. Why? Because the somatosensory has been impaired. The proprioception is gone. Right? Leg's gone. There's nothing there to give input to the brain about where the body and the leg is in space. So the brain starts to rely more upon the eyes. Is that kind of hopefully setting off a couple light bulbs here and there, right? How many of you, when you were first learning how to walk, whether it was with a walker, your eyes were glued to the floor? How many of you are your eyes still glued to the floor? Don't be shy. Put it in the comment section, right? Right? Thank you, Brian. Thank you. I want to see little light bulbs going off, because I know that whenever I do this talk, guys, there's always another light bulb that for me that goes off, right? So what happens? Why is it such a bad thing that our vision takes over? I mean, our eyes, our sense of sight is a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful gift, right? It helps us see the world around us. But the thing is, God, Mother Nature, you know, created our bodies to work in balance, to work as a system, right? So when we don't have the somatosensory telling us where our body is in space, the visual starts to take over, and it doesn't like to play nice, right? It kind of traps you. It makes it to the point where if you're not looking exactly where you're going, you're going to lose your balance. Yeah? I call it the pretty girl syndrome. Politically incorrect, but oh well, we're going to go there. Pretty girl walks by, you go like this to look at her, you fall, you lose your balance. Yeah, okay, that's because your vision is taking over, right? Vision is taking over. All right, so another thing that goes into play when you have an amputation, guys, right? When you start learning how to walk again, 99% of you did not receive a prosthesis directly after your surgery. So you had to learn how to transfer on 2 hands and 1 leg. Or some of you who are my bilaterals, you had to learn how to transfer just using your arms. So your center of gravity was changed drastically. Okay? Instead of being in the center towards the center of your pelvis, now your center of gravity is shifted over to the sound leg. Or it's starting to move up because you're using your arms to scoot over and move yourself around everywhere. So your brain starts to adapt to these new movement patterns. That's kind of the cool thing about our brains is they can undergo some serious injury, but our brains have the ability to learn new skills, relearn old ones, and to adapt to the environment around it. Okay? So in those first days after surgery, you're learning how to scoot around, how to move around, use a walker. Some of you who are hot shots were maybe using crutches, right? And think about the amount of balance that you have to use crutches and how your brain has had to learn to adapt. And what's the other thing that happens when you start learning to use a walker and crutches? You lose your hands, or at least the role of your arms and your hands changes dramatically. Right? In our normal walking patterns, our arms are meant to swing by our side to a certain extent to help with trunk rotation and to coordinate with our legs. So when we start using walkers and crutches, all of a sudden our arms are no longer free to move. They're locked into place, right? There's no freedom of movement. There's no trunk rotation. Yeah? Does this kind of hopefully lighten up a few more light bulbs there, guys? Now, is it to say that we don't ever use walkers and crutches and forget it, we're not going to do it? No, of course not. But if some of you are wondering, why do you have such a hard time letting go of the walker? Why do you have a hard time letting go of the crutches? Why do you have a hard time letting go of the cane? It's because your brain's already adapted to it. Okay, nothing's wrong with you. If anything, there's something right with you. Your brain did what it was supposed to do. It adapted to its new environment. It adapted to the challenges that it was presented with so that your body could continue to move. And remember what I said about our brains being amazing, amazing tools that they are able to learn new habits, relearn old ones? That's what therapy's for. That's where therapy comes into play, guys. And this is why I advocate so heavily for those of you who are receiving your prosthesis. The earlier the intervention you can get with physical therapists to start working with your prosthetic devices, okay, the more you can head off some of these new habits that you've learned with walking with a walker and a cane. Yeah? All right, here's a quick, do y'all want to see a quick test? Y'all want to see a quick test on how we check balance in someone to see if they're visually dependent? I want to see a quick little test. This test has been around. It's been in clinics, I think, since the 1800s when I looked up the literature on this particular test. It's called the Romberg Test. It's probably like one of the oldest tests that clinicians will use. Your doctor will use this, your PT, your OT, your nurse may even use this, okay? I want y'all to do this sitting down because you might fall doing this. So when you first do this test, do it sitting down. When I do this to my patients, I'm like standing right next to them just to be sure if I have them do it in standing. Okay. All right. So guys, those of you who want to try this test out, sit straight. And when I mean sit straight, meaning put weight evenly between your hips. Okay. Make sure you're nice and straight and your feet are flat on the ground. Okay. The simple way of doing the Romberg test is to simply cross your arms over your chest. And for some of you whose balance is really impaired, this is going to be tough for you to do, right? And a lot of times people don't realize just how impaired their balance is until I start putting them through some of these hoops, right? So just cross your arms over your chest, all right? Some of you might start swaying just a little bit, all right? For those of you who are able to do this easily, the next step is to close your eyes. And the cool thing is you need to have someone with you while you're doing this because I'm already swaying. Okay. Many times you may not even realize that you're doing kind of a Sailor Joe thing and swaying around. Okay. So for my more advanced patients, I will do this test in standing where I'll have them put their feet together. I'll have them cross their arms over their chest and I'll have them close their eyes. And I'll time them for about a minute for my hot shot patients. Usually about the 10-second mark, I start seeing the sway. So what does this test tell me? It tells me that when I take their visual sense away, their body doesn't know what to do. So that's my red flag right there that this person has been overly dependent on their vision. And we need to start working their vestibular system, and we need to start waking up that somatosensory system and get it working together again with the vision. Thumbs up, guys? Okay. Cindy, you're right. There's not a lot of us out there with amputee experience, but the beauty of my profession is everything I'm saying tonight, any physical therapist can tell you. This is the bread and butter of our profession. And any physical therapist who's worked with a patient, okay, we assess balance in every patient. Every patient. Whether you realize you're getting assessed or not, your physical therapist is checking your balance. Even if you're in for just a shoulder injury, okay? They are checking your balance. And these are just, like I said, this is the bread and butter principles of balance, of how to assess and how to treat balance. Okay. So this is a lot of times, guys, when I know I'm going off on a little tangent here, a lot of times when I've had phone calls from physical therapists around the US and they're saying, hey, I've been a PT for years, but this is my first amputee patient. Where do I go? And I say, all that exercises you do with balance with your stroke patients, all the exercises you do for balance for your traumatic brain injury patients, for your pediatric patients, for your burn patients, for your sports patients. You do them with your amputees as well. The concept is the same. Okay? All right. Let's see, Ben Gregory says that test was super easy, but I've been doing it in a lot of core and balancing on my knees with knee pads. As a bilateral BK, I sit and walk in place, but swing opposite arms for training. There you go, Ben Gregory. And Ben Gregory, I love using the Romberg test as a diagnostic tool to diagnose and see how impaired the balance is. I like to use it as a treatment technique. Okay, it's a very simple treatment technique that my patients, when I'm trying to challenge their balance at home, for them to try out. And then I also like to use it as a retest tool. So if my patient that first day, if they could stand like this for 10 seconds without swaying, then hopefully a month later, when they come back and I retest them after they've been doing treatment with me, hopefully they can hold this position for 20, maybe even 30 seconds without swaying. Okay, so we use this as part of our tools for addressing, diagnosing, and treating, right? So Kim says, I'm visually impaired and I'm always terrified when changing from a smooth surface to an uneven ground. Yes, Kim. And Kim, many of my patients have visual impairments, okay? And we have to teach their vestibular system and their somatosensory system to be a little bit stronger to help assist with the impaired visual, okay? And sometimes, again, this is where our occupational therapists can really shine and help us with adaptive equipment or adaptive strategies to help people manipulate and maneuver in their environment in a safe way, okay? Hey, Rasheen, so glad you could join us. Marianne says, I always want to tip forward, okay? So guys, you've heard me talk about finding the root cause, right? And I'm still sticking by that. And this has to do with anything related to your rehab process, anything, okay? If you don't know the root cause of the balance issue, then you can't treat it properly. And it's like throwing the spaghetti to the wall to see what sticks, okay? So here, obviously I can't assess everybody here, and everybody has their own unique set of obstacles or medical history that will contribute to balance impairment. But here are some of the common things that I see in my patients that contributes to their impairment and balance. Susan says, I likely don't know because my hubby is so thrifty, never turns the lights on, so I walk around in the dark a lot. Well, that's the one way to do the training. All right. So one of the big reasons people have impaired balance when they come into my clinic, we already talked about it. The visual system is working overtime, right? My amputees, the visual system is the numero uno, boss in charge, and it's not letting the vestibular system or the somatosensory system to take play. The pretty girl test, right? Number 2, because people are so used to using their visual system to prevent them from falling, they develop the soldier pattern, right? So especially if they have a walker or a cane or crutches, or maybe they figured out how to get off the walker and crutches, but they never learned how to use their arms again. So their arms are still kind of stuck by their side. Their shoulders are kind of elevated up to their ears. And I know I'm exaggerating things a bit, but a lot of my patients will present with some sort of variation of this, the soldier walk. Okay. The last and probably most common impairment and balance that I see is the inability to walk on uneven surfaces. Okay, so this includes being able to walk comfortably on the sidewalk. A lot of people don't realize that's considered to be an uneven surface. Walking on grass, walking on sand, okay? This can actually be even indoors. I know my dear friend Robin, she tells me that when she was first going back to work, that changing from walking on the hardwood floor to the tile floor in the next room made her system go nuts, and she would lose her balance all the time. Okay, so any of you guys see this? Any of you guys kind of recognizing some of these signs and symptoms in yourself? Terry says, I also walk in the dark because my husband goes to bed early. Brian says, my AMP doctor always says, relax, spread your arms. Well, he or she's kind of close, but not quite, Brian. Okay, so the good news is, guys, and I said this earlier in the talk, is your balance can always be improved upon. Your balance can always be improved upon. Your brain is always capable of learning. This is for me, where I'm like my nerd physical therapy clinician. Are you guys still seeing me? I got an error message, so I just want to make sure I'm still connected. Can y'all give me a thumbs up? Love it when this happens. Okay. Yes, you can hear me. Awesome. Okay. And of course, I lost where I am. Good news is, yes, good news is that, guys, your brain can relearn these skills. Okay. Just this past week, I had a lovely lady who apparently has been watching the show, and she said she wants to come and see me. But she's not sure if coming to see me is going to help her, because she says, you know, I've been an amputee for years now. I never learned how to walk properly. And I know I have all these bad habits. So I don't know, is it too late? And I said, no, it's not too late. It's not too late. I will say this, the earlier on you can address your prosthetic training from your amputation surgery, the quicker you will pick these up. Why? Because you're teaching your brain good new habits before it has a chance to really ingrain old bad habits. Okay. But it doesn't mean that your brain cannot continue to learn new habits and slowly break some of those old habits that have taken place. Okay. So, guys, I've talked to you about how the balance works. What are some of the most common issues I see associated with balance? But let's talk a little bit about the other side of the coin. Okay. Sometimes I'll have patients come into me and they say, oh my gosh, my balance is terrible. My balance is terrible. And I'll start assessing them and I go, you know, yeah, your balance can use some work. But the reason why your balance is being thrown off, okay, is because you have weakness, muscle weakness. And my patient will go, what? Muscle weakness. So guys, remember that example I just gave earlier where I said the little toddler's running out in the street and you got to grab him real quick, and your brain takes in the information, and then your brain tells your body, okay, contract these muscle groups, move your hips this way, right? So all those body parts have to be working in order for your balance to have a good foundation to work from. If you're missing range of motion in your hips, right? And many of you might have some issues with hip flexion contractures, then you're not really going to be able to move your hips back and forth properly. And you're going to have a much more limited range of movement. So when it comes to catching your balance, it won't take much to throw you off. Does that make sense, guys? Your core. If you have a weak core, okay, and you're trying to move forward and pitch yourself around, right, in your environment, and your core is not strong, right, your body's not going to be able to react to keep your trunk supported and stabilized, right? So again, this is where, and I do this with my physical therapy students. I do this with physical therapists who are just asking me for advice. I say, just remember, screen the patient from head to toe. You never know what you're going to find, right? You never know what you're going to find, okay? You might find some lack of movement somewhere in the spine that's contributing to some of these balance issues, because if you can't rotate your trunk nicely, right? If the person's having some mid-thoracic back pain, okay, and they can't move, or some even lower upper lumbar, where they can have some rotation there, that's going to inhibit their ability to move their trunk comfortably. And those muscles around the spine are going to spasm up and tighten up and not allow for free movement. It's kind of all connected. It's kind of all cool. All right. So left, Kenny says, left BK right leg has nerve damage from multiple back surgeries. Okay. Patricia says, oh, this is a good one, Patricia. Thank you for asking me this question. Hey, whoops, where did it go? Patricia says, I feel like my prosthetic leg is slightly taller than the other leg when I walk. Okay. Both prosthetists and physical therapists say they look even to them. Could that be weakness? Not necessarily. I mean, yes, you could have weakness, Patricia, but what's contributing to that is the brain's ability to process, right? That's where the somatosensory comes into play. Remember how I said visual, vestibular, somatosensory? Okay. Your body's ability to sense what's happening to it from the environment. So all your brain is saying is, there's this weird thing that's been attached to this residual limb of ours. We don't know what's going on here, and it feels like it's throwing us off. That's a very common thing I'll hear from my patients, where they'll tell me, I feel like I'm higher. I feel like I'm lower, right? And I'll sit there and I'll measure every single landmark on their body, and I'm like, nope, you are even Steven. Okay? Their brain is having trouble processing that, Patricia. The flip side to that, Patricia, and here's something you might want to think about, is prior to your amputation, did you have a leg length discrepancy? And that happened to me when I was a young therapist, and I was bonking my head against the wall going, why can I get this gentleman to get off his cane? Why are we having such a hard time? He's doing so good. And we realized that he was even on his legs, on his prosthetic side. And he finally said, oh yeah, prior to amputation, I actually had a 1-inch leg length discrepancy. So all of his life, and this man was already well into his 50s, all of his life, this man had been walking with a 1-inch difference. And as an experiment, I told the prosthetist, I go, I know this sounds weird, but make him 1 inch shorter on the prosthetic side. And the prosthetist was there. I was like, just go with me on this one. And sure enough, guy starts walking without a cane. Why? Because that's what his brain had remembered from prior to his amputation surgery. And his body had acclimated for 50-something years. And this gave him the freedom to walk. So Patricia, I always like to look at both sides. I say, well, let's take a look and see, are you really even on those legs? And if you are even, then my next question to my patient is, were you uneven prior to amputation? Does that make sense, guys? Does that make sense? Again, it's one of those kind of clinical puzzles that it's kind of fun to put together. And then guys, yeah, there are some of you in my more experienced amputees who have been through the training, who have actually very good balance, okay? And because of the fact that you are so well balanced, you do notice the small 1/8 discrepancies, 1/8 of an inch, and it'll feel off to you, okay? So a couple of things to think about with that. All right. Hey, Patrick. Okay. So guys, I'm going to try one thing. I don't know if it's going to work or not. If not, I'm going to share the link with you directly. Okay. So I want you to tell me, I'm going to try to share my screen. Okay. Can you guys see what just came up on the screen? I'll wait. You can see it, Brett? It's working. Oh, fantastic. Yay. Oh, guys, I am so excited. This particular feature on the streaming software, I've wanted to try it out for a really, really long time. So I am so glad that this is working. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and play part of this video because this video has one of my favorite foundational exercises for teaching folks balance. Okay, the very first part of the balance, because this particular exercises helps the person activate the vestibular, helps the person activate their somatosensory systems again. Oh, I'm so excited that this is working. Like we can get it all to work. Sorry, you're gonna have to listen to the boring introduction first.
Stay tuned.
Give me a thumbs up, guys, if you can hear this. Now with my patients, I always like to start up with a square up. This is where I teach people how to put their feet in the right position. When we're in standing, our feet are meant to be no more than 4 to 6 inches apart. This is how I like to teach it. Go ahead and sandwich my foot between your feet. There you go. Now that you've got the right width, I want you to make sure that your feet and your toes are aligned. Good. Once you've reached this square up position, try to be conscious of putting equal weight on both legs. The important thing is to look down while you're doing this. This gives your brain that visual input that it needs to start learning where your foot is in space. Once you've achieved the square up position, you can start by shifting your weight slowly from side to side. It's not a very large movement, just like so. Every time you're putting your body weight into that prosthesis, your brain is receiving input from your eyes, your inner ear, and the proprioceptors located in your muscles. So once again, go ahead and look down. If you find that your feet are scooting out of position, stop the exercise and square up again. Once you have mastered and feel comfortable doing side-to-side weight shifting, you're going to check your alignment, square up again. This time, we're going to do anterior, posterior, or forward and backward weight shifting. So once again, it's a small move. Okay, guys, I'm not going to, it's a 6-minute video, and I'm going to go ahead and post, and I want to thank Mission Gate Organization. I did a couple of videos with them, and they do a beautiful job of putting these videos together. Bobby, thank you so much for telling me that. I think I'm going to do that next time. I'm still playing around with the audio and everything, so thank you. I'm going to try that. So guys, this is one of my favorite exercises. And then you can hear me telling my model to look down at her feet. And a lot of people are just like, wait a second, didn't you just tell us that we don't want the visual taking over? Yes, but in order for your brain to relearn this skill, you got to feed your brain. Y'all have heard me say that before, right? How do you feed your brain? You got to feed it through the vision, the vestibular and somatosensory, okay? So when I'm first doing these exercises with my patients, I do have them looking down. I do have them looking down because their brain can start to process. Since the brain is comfortable using the visual system, the brain starts to process that there's a foot there, that it's attached to the body, right? And that it's providing support. Then once my patient has mastered these basic skills, then we start removing the visual, okay? I'll have the patient either close their eyes or I'll have them look up or elsewhere while they put their feet in the right position. Okay, and you slowly wean the patient off of using or depending completely upon their visual system. Yes, Patrick, incorporating ankle and hip strategies. Absolutely. I mean, when they're doing these weight shifting exercises, when they're moving forward and backward, okay, that's exactly what I want them to do, to activate the ankle strategies that are available in their sound foot, because they're obviously not going to have those ankle strategies in the prosthetic foot, right? And they're activating their hip at the same time. Now, you guys notice my hand placement on the patient model is on her hips. And I'm actually, what you can't see in the video is that I'm actually providing gradual resistance both ways because I'm having the body push against my hands. And again, that's activating that somatosensory system in the patient and getting their brain to start waking up those systems again. So guys, these exercises look really simple, but they're really effective, okay? And unlike strengthening exercises, these kind of exercises are meant to be done every day. Repetition is the mother of memory. So the more you do these exercises where you are training the brain and feeding the brain information, the better you will improve, the more you will improve. Make sense? Okay, guys, those of you who have been wondering about my top secret project, now that my share option is working on here, anybody want to take a sneak peek at what I've been talking about? Thank you, Susan. Anybody, let's see if we can get this thing to work. And this time, actually, Bobby, can you do me a favor? I'm going to mute my mic this time, so hopefully you can hear the audio better on the video I'm going to show you. Bobby, can you tell me in the chat section whether you're still able to hear me or not? All right, guys, let me see if I can make this work. Let's see if I can make this work. I know you saw it, Brett. I know you saw it. Hang on. Where did it go? All right, guys. I just realized my mic was still muted. Okay, you guys were able to see and hear that? Good? Yes? Thumbs up? Thumbs up? Thoughts? Yeah, you guys can hear me? Okay, I know I'm totally nerding out right now because this project has been 2 years in the making. 2 years in the making. Yay, you guys could hear me and see me. Wonderful. Okay. So here's the deal, because we're gonna, I have to make it interesting. I'm gonna post the link to that video. That video is on my YouTube channel. So hopefully by now you've had a chance to subscribe to my YouTube channel. But here's the link to that video. So on November 3rd, when I'm releasing the Kraken, when I'm releasing this big project, I am going to be doing a very, very special giveaway, and it's related to what you just saw in this video. If you would like a chance to get a raffle ticket into that giveaway, okay, and you guys are the first ones getting crack at this, put a comment under that video. Either, hey, Kosi, love this, Kosi, thumbs up, Kosi. Give me some sort of comment, and for every entry that you put in, I'm going to give you a raffle ticket. Okay, and on November 3rd, I'm going to draw a winner. Got it? Does that make sense, guys? So guys, all I'm going to tell you is those amazing 4 people that you saw there, I call them my Avengers team. And guys, can you believe we got that shot on accident? We were just testing lighting and we were testing our equipment and we got that beautiful shot right at sunset. It was just like, oh, this is a good. These 4 amazing individuals, you're going to get to know them a whole lot more in these next few weeks. So if you haven't already, go ahead and sign up for my email subscription, because those of you who are on my email subscription, you get sneak peeks to this kind of stuff ahead of everyone else. Okay, so next week, you're going to get another little sneak peek as to what's going on. And November 3rd, guys, have that on your calendar. It's a Wednesday night. It's my usual Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time show. And that's where I'll make the big reveal. Okay, guys, thumbs up. So guys, start putting those comments into that video under the YouTube video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It only helps me spread the word and help me share my work. All right, guys, that is all for this evening. If there's any questions that I didn't get around to answering for you guys for balance, don't be shy. Send it to my email. You can find my email on my website. I answer all of my questions right away, and you will go back. And those of you watching the replay, I will also be grabbing those questions, so feel free to put your question in the comment section. All right, guys, that's it for this evening. Don't forget, head to my YouTube channel, subscribe, and then put a comment in that video section. And we will see you next week, same bat time, same bat channel.